Hello friends, Chris Matthew with Forbidden Knowledge News here with a special announcement. We are starting production on the Forbidden documentary. That's right, we're breaking out the camera, lights, microphone, and hitting the road. This is going to be much bigger than your average conspiracy doc. It's going to be a conspiracy docu-series. And we're going to take all of you on the road with Forbidden Knowledge News, as well as all your favorite guests that have appeared over the years, authors, researchers, scientists, whistleblowers, contactees, fellow broadcasters, and some of you listening as well. The topics will include paranormal, ufology, historical conspiracies, hidden ancient history, current conspiracies, spirituality, cryptids, and much, much more. We're going to visit sacred and spiritual sites and places of high strangeness, and hopefully visit with as many of you along the way as possible. This project is currently completely self-funded, and we're asking for your help. We are going to jump into this head first, and hopefully the universe and maybe some of our amazing audience will help a bit. If you'd like to get involved with the production, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. And if you would like to help by leaving a donation, we have a Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal option. You can go to supportfkn.com or click that PayPal link in the description. Any amount is greatly appreciated and will help tremendously. And if you make a donation through supportfkn.com, you're going to also get access to select chapters from Cory Hughes' upcoming book about the JFK assassination. Be a part of an epic journey of discovery and truth with the Forbidden documentary. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Jason Faciane. First, I have a couple of announcements. Forbidden Knowledge News is always available on Rokfin, Odysee, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Check us out on Rokfin. This is where you get all our premium content and all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. We'd also like to welcome our newest addition to Rokfin, Raised by Giants with Ryder Lee. You can go to rokfin.com/FKN Plus to sign up or click the link in the description. Also, check out our website, forbiddenknowledge.news, also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. We feature amazing podcasts from our community like Raised by Giants, Inception, Ancient Gift, Going Down the Rabbit Hole, many more. Also, check out our friends at C60 Purple Power. C60 may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man, and the benefits have been personally incredible. But check them out for yourself. Click the link in the description, and you can get 10% off your order plus free shipping. Today, I want to welcome back to the show Jason Faciane. He is a writer, videographer, and artist in many different mediums, and he has traveled across the United States, West Africa, and the Middle East. Jason, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. What up, Chris? I know I haven't talked to you in a while. It's been a minute. Oh, a lot of things have been going on. You know, the world's always changing like it is. Always changing. So lives are too.
Well, man, it's great to see you again. I know that you're always working on lots of projects, research, art, and music, always creating, which I love to see my fellow humans do. We are all creators after all. And I understand you've been taking some deep dives down several, what some would consider conspiratorial rabbit holes, which we're going to get into a bit today. So we're going to have a good time with this. Now, for the audience that may not have seen your previous appearances on here, remind them a little bit about yourself and what you got going on this incarnation here.
Well, I've been an artist by whatever trade you want to call it, almost every medium. Ever since I was a kid, I was drawing, writing. I love film, videographer. You know, any medium possibly with art is something that once I started doing it, I think I have an innate ability of just being an artist, whatever you want, whatever that word means as an artist too, because I mean, there's such a genre of things. Anybody is really an artist, but when it comes down to what certain medium that it is that you do, and so recently, probably within the last like year and a half, I started to get into 3D animations because that's something I never got into, which is very difficult. And if anybody out there is listening and you love, like kind of computer games or games and 3D animation, it's not easy. It takes time, and you probably won't be able to have a relationship because it takes much of your day to do it. But besides that, recently I really started to get into music and making my own sound and making my own beats and making some things that I probably will have a short CD coming out, just with sounds and so maybe it'll make somebody have a happy day. Maybe they'll smile when they listen to it. Maybe they'll bob their head. It's not going to be anything negative. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, I'm from Southern Louisiana. I'm a traveler, and kind of that's in a nutshell where I'm at right now.
Right on, man. Well, we live in very interesting times for sure, and we haven't actually seen each other for a long time. For the audience that doesn't know, Jason and I grew up in the same hometown. Eventually when we hit adulthood, split off and went separate ways. I was in Florida for a while, he was in California, and then life goes on. But since 2020 at least, our world has changed very drastically. And I'm always interested in what your perception of behind the events between 2020 and now. And do you think that this is something that is inevitably going to cause a depopulation event? I mean, we're at a point right now where our system is crashing. We are seeing the collapse of our economy. It's all due to the agendas that have been put forth from our politicians, government, world leaders, and media over the past couple of years. But we are witnessing this crumbling of old systems, and the question is, can we rebuild after? And how bad are things going to get within the next few years before anything could get any better? And I want to get your thoughts on the past couple of years.
Well, to try to not be so vague, one of the things would be a reset. Okay, now I know that just jumped down into the rabbit hole real quick, with that being a reset. And when we get on to what I'm talking about, the Tartarians, that's a whole different story. But so here's the deal with that, and what my research and what I've done is that what's one thing that could control a population, and that is hunger. When people are hungry and you starve either a nation, I don't care if you starve one household full of 5 people, that household's going to crumble. And then sooner or later, they're going to get so hungry that they'll do whatever it is that they need to do. Not only that, or they will follow what everybody's telling them what they need to follow to get food. So one of those things is with the food in America. And, I've done my studies on that too. And I know that a lot of people have actually heard, like, what the food is just like one of the gateways of where, you can really get into everybody's lives, dude. You go to the store and, there's nothing on the shelves. Well, then we start, hopefully have a garden, you know. Has it changed? Yeah, let me rephrase that. I think that the coronavirus is definitely a propaganda in a sense. So don't, whoever's listening, don't get me too wrong here. Sure, it could be real in all its sense, but you know, it's probably real into this effect. But the overall effect is that, you know, I think personally, and I'll kind of end this with this, is that it is a front propaganda platform for somebody to worry about when there's a whole lot of other things going on.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on, and we're only gonna understand, at least some people who don't look deep are only gonna understand what the mainstream media is telling them and the propaganda that they're being fed. One of the examples of that you just said is this illusion of scarcity. Now, yes, the store shelves are quickly becoming more and more empty. Supply chain is breaking down, but what people don't realize is something else you said. You can grow your own food. There is an endless amount of seeds, there's an endless amount of natural resources that if humans take a little while to understand and learn how to do things for themselves, they wouldn't have to rely on the system and daddy government for food. They could take care of themselves, but because we've been indoctrinated into this system where we believe that we have to rely on daddy government for food and all this stuff, and we have to go get our everything we need from the grocery stores and Walmarts, and they're trying to eliminate all other seemingly open resources that we have, but all people really have to do is just go around to your local communities and talk to people, and that is where that's where we start regrowing in my rebuilding, in my opinion.
And literally regrowing, because you got if you have a community of people who all are growing food, well, guess what? When I run out of some peppers, or if I run out of this, I come over to Chris's house, like, Chris, dude, like I'm out of potatoes, but can I trade you these onions for some potatoes? And you're like, man, I just have like a whole bushel of onions. I know I'm not going to eat them all, et cetera, et cetera. But this is something that we all know, but we never thought that we'd ever have to get back into it. The only way I think that people thought that we might be able to have to get back into it if there was like a nuclear, if there was a nuclear bomb that hit, or et cetera, et cetera. But they're doing it blatantly in front of our eyes at the moment as we speak. And they're, like I said, going back, using propaganda to make us think, be in fear, you know, because I think that when you're in fear and you're hungry, dude, that's a deadly combination. And no pun intended, as far as depopulation goes, right? You have Ethiopia, who has so many resources and so many things there, and they are some of the starvingest people. I don't know if that's the right word to use, starvingest people on the planet, you know? And so I think that right now also it's getting put in our faces. Everything is like, I really think it's coming like really, really like faster, where people are getting smarter and being like, all right, well, this doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And this doesn't make sense. And that doesn't make sense either. But before, it might be, well, that doesn't make sense. But everything else, that looks like it's all right. And that looks like it's all right. And that looks like it's all right. But we're getting smarter as far as trying to pay attention. And with social media, and with everything being able to be instantly shown, then people are gonna get smart, and there's only gonna be a certain amount of time before the curtain gets pulled back, like on Wizard of Oz. Before that, you know, the curtain. Here's how I look at it in an analogy. I think that there's a lot of people who's starting to understand that there's an actual curtain there. The beginning, like if you don't even think there's a curtain there, then you just think you're no pun intended in the Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? But people now, it's getting to the point where, like, okay, we know there's a curtain there. Who's behind the curtain? And if you want to go a little bit further, how many curtains are there that we can't see?
Yeah,
And
I think you're right on when you say how many curtains. I think there's multiple elite, what you would call factions of billion trillionaires, people that we will never be in their club, that all have different interests in what direction they want humanity to go. So they do everything they
even
can
if
to
they
get
want
their
that,
agendas
maybe
out
they
there.
don't even want. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Go
you
ahead.
off. I know I have a bad habit. Maybe that's not even what their agenda is. That all their agenda is to make sure that they are okay, and then that they can have their money or whatever to pass on. But there's only such a small, minute percentage of what and who runs this planet.
Mm.
You know this. I think we kind of touched on it once before. And a lot of people, I'm not saying a lot of people don't care, but they don't have time to. They got to go to work. They got to worry about their kids eating. And see, that rabbit hole gets going around in a circle. No matter what, if you're poor and the only food that you can buy is that food that might not be the best food for you, you still have to buy that food. And so it's like a slow but surely thing that is going on. But a
Oh yeah,
lot of
and
people,
it all starts with the beginning, your education as a child, the family unit you grow up with, what you're taught and indoctrinated with, what your family believes, what your parents believe is passed on, and then you go into the mainstream education system where everything you learn is about being a good little slave and contributing to the system, and not ever getting anything back from it. It's your whole life completely being like a battery or energy source for this perpetual system, and that's all it is. And you are right about there's a very few at the top. They wanted to keep it that way. They want to keep a very few in charge of a smaller population, I believe. I think it's gotten a little bit large for their liking, and I think that they want to have easier control methods. We're going into this kind of technological transhuman metaverse age where the people remaining would probably be easier to keep track of if they were all in the metaverse and online, and kept
I got an
docile.
Oculus Quest 2. You know, I'm in the 3D animation. I know that that is the forefront of what's going on right now. And so with me, instead of turning my head and being like, whatever, this tech, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to go on, I'm like, fuck that. I'm sorry. I hate cursing on your show.
No, you're good, man.
I know it doesn't matter. But being in the forefront of it and knowing everything else, what's going on, which brings me maybe to switch a little subject here, is Elon Musk. So you got Elon Musk, who's the richest man in the world, right? And, you know, he just bought Twitter.
Well, he's the richest man on paper. There's plenty that have way more that
Sure.
aren't talked about.
Oh, you got me on that one. Absolutely, Chris, for sure. But I guess what really I'm getting at, that was a good one. I like that. The fact of the matter is, I'm like trying to pay attention. Like, this dude's buying up these things. But he bought Twitter. I think he bought Instagram. I'm not sure. You know, he can't touch Facebook because Zuckerberg is probably just like, no, I know what you're doing. I'm not going to let you buy Facebook also. But think about it. If he owns most of the social media, then you are controlling people, and you're controlling. And now, not only that with Musk, and that's why I kind of texted you about talking about him. Only one, because he is one of the richest men in the world, has a lot of power, very smart, and he's putting up satellites in so-called space. I'm not even gonna get into that if that's real or not. But you know, when he's like, we're gonna put 60,000 satellites up, so he'll know exactly where you're pooping that day, or exactly where you picked your nose that day, and exactly where you're gonna go that way. Now, going even further, would be able to see your reputation in life, what you're gonna do, what you normally eat, what you normally watch on TV, normally when you go out your front door, do you take a left or you take a right? Let's say you take, I know I'm being vague, but let's say you take a right out your front door every morning at 7 o'clock. Well, instead of like having somebody crazy stranger like stalking somebody, you don't need that. Now all you gotta do is press a button and I'm like, oh yep, doing the same routine, going that way. You know what I mean? Now I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that, Chris, you know,
No, I
but
know what you mean. It's a total police surveillance state that's being kind of headed towards, and that I think is going to go along with the social credit system and everything they're doing with the technological aspects of the metaverse. But there's some people that are trusting of Elon Musk because of his stance on free speech and what he's seemingly doing with Twitter, but I don't think so. I think he is in a way playing both sides, but I think that he has nefarious outcomes in mind. He wants to put chips in our brain. He has major contracts with the Department of Defense. He is basically helped make weapons of mass destruction. He the
right.
satellites are put up there for
That never
military
gets talked about.
purposes. Yeah,
That
you know,
never
all
gets
this
talked
other stuff.
about.
And so he's also has ties with probably Epstein. He was photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, this person is probably not someone that has our best interest in mind, even though he seemingly does on Twitter or social media or whatever. But I think he plays both sides so that he can kind of rise above all these other kind of warring factions and maybe have a heads up on a lot of the technological aspects of control we could see in the future.
Right. So he can be ahead. And so whenever with anybody would come to him with any kind of question of why is this and why are you doing this or why, he's like, he already has an explanation. He's already ahead of everybody in that game. And when it comes down to, like, I bet you most likely there's no questions you can ask Elon Musk about anything that he's doing. Let's just keep it at what he's doing, that he would never be like that. And then if somebody tried to contradict him, I don't know if that was the right word to use, about what he was talking about, he'd still have an answer, you know? Like, that's like, because he is that smart, supposedly. Now, here's the other deal. Now I'm gonna go out in the right field again, or on a different. Could he be a robot? Could he be an alien? I know he was on the job. Well, it's, you know what I'm saying, Chris? Like, I know it's kind of, I know I saw you chuckle and smile, but at the same time, when he was on the Joe Rogan show, Joe even asked him, he's like, dude, you just must be an alien. You're an alien, huh? And he was like, yeah.
Well, I can tell you what, I know that he is from an elite family. And I know that his mother, through social media and everything she's been doing for years, has been putting out occult symbolism. I know that his father is also one of these elites from, I think it's South Africa, he wanted to put together an expedition to look for like ancient Nephilim remains and bones. So these guys are definitely deep connected into the occult. And I think that if you're going to get to that level of society, you have to be at least part of some kind of bloodline that's going to get you there. And I think everyone that we see in these positions is part of not the royal, but a royal family in a sense, to where they are part of a certain bloodline that has been kept in power for maybe hundreds or thousands of years.
Are the whole damn time. Because like, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on it, but every president has been a Freemason. Everyone, ever since the beginning. I'm almost positive that every single one has been a Freemason. And if I'm wrong, it's only maybe one person or two people, but I'm almost positive. Now, does that matter to most people? No, but yeah, it does, because the people who are in control of this planet are one of a couple of things, are all of the above. They're aliens from, and they created, and so they're going to stay in power. You have, you know, I think that the chain links, the pyramid just like goes down from there. Now, here's the only thing that they have been good at keeping us in the dark of things, is that we don't know who they are. And that's where that whole thing, your whole premise, your whole idea, and like a lot of other people's who podcast things on certain knowledge that we talk about, is that we don't know. And the last time I looked over me and your first interview last night just to kind of not try to repeat some of the same stuff, that I'd said, kind of thing. And I think one of the things, and this is when we were joking, it was towards the end, and me and you were just cutting up, and I'm like, "Have you ever been to space?" And you're like, nope. I'm like, me neither. So I don't know if we've been to the moon. I don't know if there's a space because I haven't been there. Now, which brings me to my other point. My whole point is how that really good script that's been written for all these thousands of years, the Bible, it's pretty good. The script, people are going to hate me on that one too. I don't care. But somebody wrote it. Somebody wrote it. This is where my beliefs would change. If there was something that was written down, they were like, yep, this is an alien that wrote this down, and be like, oh, all right. But it's always been a human being in a sense that wrote these things down. So all we know is what somebody else has written down, period.
Mm-hmm. So, you're absolutely right. And if you look back at a lot of the history that we see now in our modern day history books, it's all been written by kings and victors of the situation. And the more and more we research, and great people who are doing independent research are finding out that most of our history is false, and it has just been written by those in power. And things like the Bible has, of course, been rewritten many times, but I think that there are profound truths as well in the Bible as well. There's a lot of astrological truths.
So, if so, then that would be the most creative, awesomest person to write down a wonderful story. I know a lot of that shit's been true. So, sorry, my secretary over here. No. He's very smart. He's actually my roommate. His name is Charlie. He's a wonderful man. And I don't know what he's really trying to write here about, reptilians and stuff, but okay, that's what he was trying to tell me, that 40 different people wrote the Bible, which is fine, but it's still a person who wrote it down. I have a book that I wrote. It's called The Ink. You can read it for free on the Jason Faciane, The Ink. Yep, there's a plug. And, there's some really fun, awesome things that goes on in there, but at a primitive time, if you take this story about the ink, whatever you write with, it comes alive and comes true, and you give that story to somebody 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, they're going to be like, whoa, this bottle of ink is magical. And if anybody showed up with this probably fake bottle of ink and was like, here's the ink, what would you believe? How would you know? The only thing we know is what people have written. And I stress this all the time. And people they don't argue with me, but they're just like, well, they just try. I'm like, they still wrote it. Like, if you haven't, so I have to take the word of somebody who says, like, let's say I'm Buzz Aldrin. Yep, went to the moon. Cool. It does look like a movie, and y'all even say that Stanley Kubrick is involved in it, and they do some scenes, etc. And then not only that, you're gonna tell me we can't see on the other side, the dark side of the moon. All right, now okay, and I'll stop this with this, and we can kind of move forward. But the moon's probably a nightlight. Sometimes I keep it on, and sometimes I keep it off.
Well, hey, I have to agree that space, I don't think the traditional model of space, what they tell us, anything in NASA is true. I think that all the images are fake, and that does leave us with, well, what is the truth? And honestly, the more and more I think about it, I really doesn't think it matters. I think it's a distraction, and I think we
Yes.
ultimately we're in more of a realm than anything, and it's for our own purposes. It's our own growth and development purposes, like a petri dish that we're sent here to learn things and grow. And if we want to come back and feel like we haven't learned enough, we're back. But that's a whole nother show. I want to go back to the hidden history aspects.
Okay.
You mentioned Tartaria, and
Yes.
this is a fun one I've been looking at a lot lately. The thought that we could have been reset multiple times, and not only that, closer in our history than alluded to in any research done, even in modern times. This is all new stuff. Basically proposing that we had been reset up to maybe 100, 200 years ago, and they took advantage of either a massive global catastrophe, mud flood, or they caused it themselves. By they, I mean them, they, the elites, whoever's in control at the time. And after the reset, the individuals that were left over, after humanity was kind of dwindled, they used orphan trains and repopulated and taught new curriculum, taught new history, and tried to rebuild everything with technology and construction that was not even close to being advanced and sufficient as before. So that's a very interesting concept. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Absolutely, 100%. And so to try to explain to people who are listening right now about Tartarians and about the different civilization that was probably smarter than us in a sense, or what have you, they had already built these structures. And so you go and look at some of these cities and structures, they have underneath tunnels and grounds. And when a lot of times when you go underneath there, I haven't ever been, I'm just going off what I see on what my research does, is that they're like shops and they're like places. So then we talk about the big flood, or what that happens. So that covers that up. And so then we build on top of that. So now that underneath looks like we just, we went hiding in caves, or we had to build underneath. I don't think so. I think that it's the earth that has been put on top of that, because you can't tell me that everybody around the whole planet has been making underground tunnels in their cities for no reason, because maybe they're not underground tunnels. Maybe that was how the street life used to be. And so when things pass, and then back to what you said, that people might be able to, there's no might, control the weather. Well, if you wanted to bury something and you control the weather, there's quite a few ways you can do it. Earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes. I mean,
it's interesting what you said about the tunnels. I had a show with a gentleman on the other day, and he believes, he's former military, and he actually spoke with other individuals that claim that there is actually saltwater canals that run throughout underneath the United States, and that actual submarines have access to these tunnels that go all across the United States. And I find that very interesting as a possibility,
It wouldn't surprise me at all whatsoever. And so, all right, so let's change a little bit, but not the subject. We're going to stay on the same subject with Tartarians. If you look and do your study on cities around this planet that have been burnt down, it's kind of astronomical, sort of, because like all these cities get burned down, right? A lot, like a whole lot. Now, I don't mean to jump again, but this is because I know our time will always run out, because me and you will just keep on talking and going. Why isn't that we understand that there's pyramids on every part of this globe, everywhere? Some sort of like pyramids that weren't just built out of sand. They didn't just, put a couple of sticks together and made pyramids. They made pyramids pyramids, all periods. They made pyramids all over this planet. So there had to be some kind of reset, especially if we really don't know why. We have our theories, right? And most people use like what the billy goat as Egypt and over there with those pyramids, that, you know what I mean? That's like the front runner. That's like the one that's like, yeah, this is what's going on. But then if you really do your research, there are pyramids everywhere. And so you can't just tell me that they were only doing sacrifice. There's no way.
Yeah,
There
no,
had to
I,
be
I agree.
energy.
I think that they had a global civilization at some point that shared spiritual ideas and practices and construction methods and advanced technologies up to maybe even a couple hundred years ago. Um, you mentioned the construction of the buildings, how advanced they were. Even you can look at some cathedrals that still exist
Yes,
today that can't be recreated, and I think that those are places of I guess to harness energy in sorts of frequency technology, and that's been speculated by many researchers that places like pyramids or cathedrals or obelisks were used to harness some kind of electromagnetic energy or being used for some healing purposes as well, which also deals with energy.
absolutely. And that's what runs everything, is vibration and waves and all that. So that pushes us closer to trying to understand like exactly who we are. I don't know if we'll ever know exactly who we are until maybe we die, right? I mean, in a sense, but why some of us humans that are still on Earth are doing some really putting two and two together. And not only putting two and two together, now we're putting like, 16 and 16 together and 100 and 100 together, not just 2 plus 2 together. And so now we're starting to figure out when, like, especially when it comes to quantum physics, that is something that nobody knows about. And I don't care what anybody said, they're getting close. Sure. But anybody can read a book, like I read a book about quantum physics. The first one I ever read was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And, if anybody doesn't know what quantum physics are, but I know that you talk to a lot of smart people and listen to you, and a lot, they're smart. But for basic example, I think I might have said this in your other podcast, but behind me, I hear a bird chirping, but there's a possibility there's nothing out there besides a noise of that bird chirping. And I'm not trying to lose anybody here, but the point is with quantum physics is how that works. If it is being observed, it changes. So if it's not observed, is it not gonna change because it's not being observed? Or so, and then now full circle about control. Then the people or entities that are controlling us as humans, they have just figured out so many ways to go about doing it. One, mining. That is one of the most main things that I think a lot of people don't talk about also, is that this earth has been mined with big machines. I think, look, I'm 50-50 on everything when I say this, because I just want to, I'm not saying, yeah, this is what happened. But do I think that the Grand Canyon was formed just because a river ran through it all these years? I do not think so. I don't. Am I right? I don't know.
Well, I think the Grand Canyon, that's a good example of what could have possibly been a massive sun or solar or plasma storm that carved out places like the Grand Canyon with plasma lightning strikes, huge lightning strikes, massive, that could have carved out huge areas of rock and mountain and formed that. And that's just,
In an
that's one
instant,
theory.
and not hundreds of years, in an instant.
Right. Yeah, and there are plenty of really smart individuals and researchers and scientists that I've had on my show, some recently, that believe we're due for another one of those, that our sun is going through a cycle that could reset everything, and that could be the reason why all this is happening, why the elites, those in control, know that we're due for another global cataclysm or reset. Our solar system, we're headed towards a part of the galactic center that's more energetic. The sun is waking up. We're going into a different cycle of the sun where it could go supernova eventually. It's changing colors. We're witnessing it going from yellow, orange, now it's white. There are scientists that believe it's going to go to blue, and it's going to change the whole spectrum of our magnetic field, and we're going to be able to see things in our sky that we haven't seen for thousands of years. It's going to be like the petroglyphs it's going to be like the petroglyphs that our ancient ancestors drew, looking like little stick men, but that's what the plasma in the sky that they saw. And it could have carved out huge areas, like you said, of the Grand Canyon, or caused a CME or something like a massive mud flood, something of a cosmic nature that came from the skies, either a massive comet or meteor that hit our Earth.
Now, let me ask you a question. Is that, not to cut you off, is that depopulation in a sense right there?
Well, that's a natural cycle. That, of course, it's depopulation. It will cause the planet to be depopulated, but it's also something that we can't control. Right.
What if it's not natural and we controlling the weather?
Well, that's a possibility. I know we have the ability to control the weather. I know that we already have been controlling weather. We've controlled hurricanes, and we can go as far as to possibly have an effect on earthquakes and volcanoes. I know that the technology is 50 to 100 years out from what we even know about. So the technology that they could have to control the weather is definitely there, and I believe that they definitely do that.
Full circle, if somebody wanted to control the weather, one of the things that they might use is satellites. And now I'm going full circle with this. Now you have somebody who is one of the richest people on the planet and is like blatantly saying, I'm putting out 60,000 satellites in the air. What do you think can control the weather? If it was my opinion or my gut opinion, I don't know. Again, I'm no scientist, but that would be, and that's why when then he bought Twitter and then Instagram or whatever, and he's just like keeping buying these things. Not only is he controlling that where we are sitting down right now, but he's controlling everything around the planet also. And to me, a lot of people have said before Musk started doing what he was doing that no one person should be in control of all that. Well, is anybody not paying attention? Because I am, and he is in control of a whole lot of things, and it's only getting more and more and more. Now, is he in friends and cahoots with all the less than 0.00001% of the richest people on the planet? Obviously, man. They don't just not talk.
Oh yeah, he's definitely in the club. And I know on your list here you wanted to touch on the currency of the future here, whether it be any type of cryptocurrency or digital currency. We know that the dollar is going to crash. We're going to have a huge economic crash. That's inevitable. I mean, people that are still in denial and think that our dollar's still going to be worth something 2 or 3 years from now, they have their heads in the sand. We're going to see a major economic crash, and I don't think our dollar's going to be worth anything, and that's going to cause some major issues. But that being said, we're being pushed towards a cryptocurrency either way, whether it's a centralized government-controlled currency or something like Bitcoin, which I believe can still be manipulated, still be controlled to a certain aspect. I don't think we should throw all of our hopes into that, but I don't know. What do you think about cryptocurrency?
I think that you're absolutely right. I think with crypto, it's the closest thing that we have without it, anybody else being able to manipulate it or control it. Like, it's close. It's like right there. It's like, all right, this is what we came up with this crypto where it's yours and nobody can touch it, unless you want them to touch it. And so that's not going to make the higher people, I want to say governments, but the higher people, higher entity, they don't want that. But somebody was very smart. I don't know the names. I think there was like 2 or 3 guys who kind of came up with Bitcoin or whatever. And that was the whole point. They were tired of being able to get taxed on something that shouldn't have been taxed on, or et cetera, et cetera. But this is what I haven't really thought about that much, because thinking about other things, is that if all electricity went out on the planet, now we're going full circle. Hope you built a garden.
Yeah, cryptocurrency won't be worth anything if we don't have any type of electrical systems or technology to use it. So that's another thing. If a CME hits and everything's wiped out, you got to go back to trading, my brother, just like you said.
And then we're going into a little bit of chaos. Then we might be going into, whatever, like medieval times, which also, not to jump rabbit holes again, is the fact that there's got to be, and I know there is, I don't know that for sure, that's not factual, that history has been lied to us. So much is that we believe it. It's almost like a compulsive liar. A compulsive liar will lie so much that he thinks that after such a long period of time that's what it is. That's what. No, my grandma went to the moon. She told me this ever since I was a kid. She's been on the moon, and she brought back this rock, and I can show you this little fake rock. And like, so once we start believing that, and the population believes that, well, I mean, what the question is, maybe for you, Chris, is what is it that they're lying about? Isn't that the inevitable, I don't know if that's the right word to use, question? What is what? And that's what we don't know.
There's plenty that are of the mind that ultimately it's not about good or evil or trying to depopulate us, but trying to evolve our consciousness, because we can't grow, we can't evolve without conflict, without evil. Good can't do anything without evil. We can't grow and learn anything. I said it
on the last podcast.
So, yeah. I mean, is this all just a part of our natural human evolution? Does this have to happen to where that we can learn not to be the way we used to be and grow? And are these what we call elites just agents of what we would call chaos, but they're necessary? They're necessary chaos so that we can grow. And without them, maybe we'd be stuck. I know that is my belief.
What would we be talking about?
What's that?
We wouldn't even have anything to be talking about. That's the case.
Well, it's my belief that, we all started out as one individual consciousness, one source that decided somehow to split off into billions and billions of pieces. And now I think we're starting to maybe want to come back a little bit, maybe back to that source, and cut out all the extra BS that we created for ourselves along the way, and turmoil and chaos and mistakes after mistakes. Maybe it's time to reel it back a little bit. I don't know, but that's what it feels like at times. And I think that right now we're headed to a point where humanity is at a critical stage of evolution. People are waking up left and right. And I think, and this is what I want to talk to you about, I think we're at the tipping point to where more people are questioning reality than going along with the status quo. And you've done a little traveling recently. You've been to a few places across the United States. And in the past couple of years, have you noticed that people are becoming more enlightened, that they're becoming more advanced, conscious, spiritually, and that they're wanting to explore more about the unknown and the hidden nature of reality?
Yes, I do. and here's the thing, going back to of what, it's only like one person in a sense that writes something down, and that is the only information we have going on. So the people who are getting woke up, now it's like 50-50. Now they're taking whatever it is that they read or whatever that has been written, and then trying to take their own opinion now and putting that into it. So now either one or two things are going to happen. The smart people are going to realize whatever it is we're supposed to realize, or you keep listening to what somebody wrote 2,000 years ago. And I'm not, that I'm not bashing the Bible. I'm not bashing anybody who's written anything down, because if not, again, we wouldn't have anything to talk about. All like right now, if they've never written anything like that, what will we be talking about? Like, yeah, Chris, the sun's out right now. I mean, it's not raining.
Yeah, I think it's about piecing together pieces of the Bible, pieces of other ancient texts, pieces of Sumerian lore, pieces of ancient Egyptian and pre-Babylonian, all of it as old as you can get. And I think that if you can put everything together and use your intuition and your own instincts, you can form an idea of what our true history was, even though it may not be exactly what happened. But I think we have to go off of as many ancient sources as possible. And something else that I think is also a wonderful thing. People are coming into abilities that they didn't know they had. People who have the ability to channel psychic abilities.
Something that was right there, blatant in front of their face, right. And now is starting to realize. Wait a minute.
I think we have access to this information, like through what you would call the Akashic records. Through our consciousness, we are linked to everything, past, present, and future, and that there are some people that can access this information. There's also untrustworthy people who tend to mess with people about it. But I think there are genuine psychics, mediums, people who have these consciousness abilities that we can also turn to get information from as well. And I know many of them.
Right. And here's the kicker, what you just said, many of them, you talk to them. See, there's a whole difference. If, let's just say, the people who you just said you talk to, the only thing that you would have coming off of a book that they wrote, and they're dead and what have you, but you're actually talking to them face to face. And so now, for us to maybe try to realize some stuff we don't know, is that we're actually talking to people face to face and we're not reading a book, right? Because let's just say that whoever's dead that you were just talking about, you would bring it up and you would be like, well, I read this book about this person who wrote this book who's dead. And so,
yeah, for me, reading is like the tiniest slice of educating myself that I do, of learning. Like, I might read a little bit and then just go out and try and experience and talk to people and get the rest of the information surrounding it, because I think that that's the only way we're really gonna learn truth, is through experience as well, and not just reading books or researching information. But we're headed to we're already in an information age where everything is online on the internet, but there's so much misinformation and BS mixed in that we have to use our discernment. And, that brings us to everything that's happening with censorship and how they're trying to get the woke culture out there, and all the other divisive tactics we're seeing.
I think it's moving forward as far as people being woke. I hope so. I think so. It seems like it. You never know, because
you won't know because they don't tell you. The media won't show you the truth.
Right. I guess for a small analogy, sort of, is if you can take the opinions of 100 people about what they think COVID was or is, you're going to probably get 50-50. Maybe. I don't know. Probably. You'll be like, yep, I know somebody who died from it. That side of the story. Then you have the other people who will be like, it's just
that's something I'd be really interested in. A genuine survey on the American populace to see how they feel. Is this BS or not? Just a simple answer. Do you think a majority of this is BS? Yes or no? I'd love to see that survey, because then I can get an idea of where most of the people stand, and if we're ready to pick up arms and put some heads on pikes or not. That would be a great indicator for me.
Oh, and you're welcome, by the way, for that idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I love you, dude. But right, I don't want to necessarily get lost of train of thought there, but you would get the same answers. So, and my analogy is that is almost on anything. Ask somebody about aliens. Do you think aliens are alive? And then you're gonna, you're gonna get it 50-50, or it could shift either way. But when it all boils down to it, you don't know and I don't know. And that is what the bottom line is. And so it's hard to talk to people. I consider myself a paying attention, smart person and et cetera, because I do, and you really don't have to be smart to pay attention to what is around us. But we are lazy people. And so we'll sit on the couch instead of asking even questions on the couch. See, now I'm kind of going off. I know I'm kind of going off a little track there. But when it boils down to, we don't know, like seriously, when somebody tells me that the moon landing wasn't fake or was fake, both, I'm 50-50, either or, I'm like, well, like the only research you have is from somebody else showing you this.
Oh man, I can definitely tell you the moon landing's fucking fake. There's not one real piece of evidence from that thing. It was definitely produced. The question is, of course, why? There's plenty of theories why. You could get into fake space, you can get into flat Earth, you can get into simulation theory, or just the fact that there was a space race that we were trying to beat the Russians at, and we just lied. I don't know.
Well, it would be for propaganda and control of the planet.
Yeah.
Because, the Russians, were what I think it would be control. And that control is pretty much more or less money. So that's when I hope you have a garden, because that would be that day. I don't care about a nuclear bomb and all that. No, let's take currency out of the equation, period. Most people can't even fathom that. But I hope you have a garden. And I know I said that a couple of times, but it's true. Because you would be coming over and be like, Jay, I know you got a lot of tomatoes, man, right now. And I'm like, dude, they're going to go dead before I eat them. So here you go. And so with that's real. That's real. That's material, real, unless we're in a simulation. But that tomato is real and needs it. But if it's all going to go to zeros and ones, which is going to probably go to, is where that more control comes into place.
I tell you what, man, I got my garden going. I got my tomatoes, squash. I got marijuana. I got other herbs and spices, onions. I got all kinds of stuff growing, and I'm definitely ready.
And you know what? I didn't even know that. I thought you were doing, and that's
for sure. Yeah, chickens are next. We got to get us some chickens to have that source of protein for sure. But let's close on this, Jason. Aliens. You mentioned aliens a few times, and man, my perception and thoughts and theories on the whole UFO alien phenomena has vastly changed, especially since I started doing this show, and especially since I had my own experiences with this, whatever it is. Now, I used to be pretty adamant that they were actually physical beings coming from different planets across the universe to visit us and stick things in our butt and experiment on us, whatever aliens do, but that's vastly changed. I've come to realize that this is such a personal phenomenon. It's connected to each and every one of us. If it is a genuine phenomenon, and if it is for a being that is definitely connected to you and who you are, they will advance your spiritual and personal growth. That's what they did for me. That's what they did to every genuine contact case that I've looked into, people I've talked to. It's all been an advancement of their consciousness, evolution of their consciousness, and spiritual seeking. And it was definitely that for me. Now, whether they are coming from different planets to do this, I don't know, maybe. Whether they're gray alien beings, I don't know, maybe. For me, I know it's a spiritual thing. I know that my contact experiences were in no way physical, but the information gained and that doesn't make the experience any less real, and the information that I gained from these experiences were profound, and I completely owe everything to where I'm at now to having these experiences and seeking further from them. Now, you mentioned that maybe these elites are controlled by aliens, or maybe they are aliens. Now, I don't think so. I think that it's all humans, and I think that maybe, possibly, we got some information along the way, maybe not from aliens, but from spiritual entities. Psychedelics were a huge part of rituals and spiritual practices throughout time, and there have been cases of entity contact throughout psychedelic experiences, and I think that a lot of the information, cosmic knowledge and wisdom that we've gained through whether it's secret societies or ancient ancestors or wherever it come from, that it may have originated with a psychedelic experience or a meditative experience or a spiritual entity coming into contact with that person for their own spiritual gain. And I don't think it's going to be
those three things. I love that what you just said is perfect in a sense. Like for instance, you ever did DMT?
I've not done I've done almost everything except DMT. I have not done ayahuasca. Those are the two that I would really like to try one day.
And I know whoever, sorry, Mom, but I have done it twice. Sorry, Mom. I'm just saying that.
Well, these to me have transcended people's normal view of what they consider as drugs. This, for me, is plant medicines, and they are for our own spiritual growth and advancement. And I in no way see these as drugs or what considered narcotics or anything that would be harmful to people. Yes, it can be taken and abused in different ways, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's not any fun to do that anyway. So.
No, and that was almost a disclaimer that I was about to say too. I don't recommend it necessarily to everybody because their brains just cannot.
Yeah, I don't recommend it at all. If you think it will help you in your journey, sure, but I would never tell anyone to try psychedelics.
No, especially DMT, because I think I know that it taps into a third eye.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And the experience that I have had lasted, I think probably, I don't know, it felt like an hour or two, but 7 to like 12 minutes. And in that time, I felt and saw like there was music playing in the background. And at the moment of my life, I'm making music. And so I got these beats going on and I'm just seeing just everything is just not what it is. It's like pulling a cover of an onion out and seeing what you never want to see because you might cry because it's an onion. But I'm telling you what, sir, what I've seen both of those times was not from Earth. I think it came, and I can try to end this on this. I think it came from the inside stuff that when you know how many times you hear people say that we are just not ready. We're just not ready to understand what's there. Well, that personally with me is what I have been focusing on and trying to be like, all right, if all these people are saying this,
like a reality just beyond our perception, right?
Right.
If like something that always exists that we can't see, but if we put ourselves into that state of mind, it's right there.
Or whoever is controlled of the entities of us or what have you are like, nope, not yet, dude. No, y'all are already killing yourselves. You're already blowing each other up. You already have hateful. You're already doing all this. How would it was like having an unstable uncle or some shit that you were like, I don't want him coming over to the party because there's going to be a lot of drinks and a lot of et cetera, et cetera. But I know we're probably running out of time again, but there's so much I want to talk to.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely do it again. Let's end on this. Where do you think that our evolutionary stage is going in the next few years? I personally believe we have a lot of growing pains to get through. I think that we're going to go through, as a collective, as a human race, some tough times, but that's the only way we're going to grow from it, and I think that we're going to have really good times after that. I think that we could even experience a utopia within our lifetime if we latch onto the right timeline and make the right decisions. What do you think?
Yep. I think that right now, and because it's going so fast, one is the integration of AI of our everyday lives. And that is, for me, to answer your question specifically and not trying to go around the question, is that it's already happening. It's inevitable. And you got people making it even more faster, like Mr. Musk and more than him, quite a few more. And that once AI takes control of certain things in our everyday lives, which I'm talking to you on this computer, where it's going to become a normal thing. So that's how it's going to gradually get to if AI is going to be bad or not in the future, because this is going to gradually just come in. You know, what's going to say in 25 years from now, you go into, let's just say, not you, I'm talking about in general, to your mom's house, and your mom answers the door and she's like, hey, I'm glad you're here. We were just making dinner. She's a widow, but she has a robot that's making the dinner. And then you walk in and that robot's making a dinner and dinner's almost done. And that would be a normal way of life. That's not that far away.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's there already, and who knows what, but I don't know how much time we got left, but the last thing I want to end off so we can talk about this in the next episode is CERN and the possibilities of what they have been doing that nobody necessarily knows about, except what they want to let people know about, that we might have tapped into some things about opening up different dimensions, and that can make people have deja vu, or they can make people wake up one morning and not know what day it is, or be like, what time is it? 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And they're like, no, it's 6 o'clock at night, or vice versa. Or what I truly, and to end this on that it's a combination of so many things. That is why it's easy to keep a lot of people confused.
Yeah,
because there's so many factors that go along in it.
Yes, man, I think you're right. They're hitting us from all different angles. Our reality is like an onion that we can never get to the center. You just keep peeling and peeling, and it gets weirder and weirder with every layer. Jason, that was fantastic, man. Let the people know. I know you're making some beats and music, and you got some other media. Where they can find your stuff.
Well, you can always go to my Facebook page right now. But I will have a CD that I'll be making coming out very soon here. It'll probably be called it will be in a combination, but FashionsWonders79.com. But if Jason Faciane, you find me on Facebook, you'll be able to go anywhere you want to go with what I'm putting out. And before I let you go, I always do this. I got everybody who's listening. My favor to y'all is you got to make one person smile every day.
That's good, man. I like it. I love it. Jason, that was fantastic. Definitely going to talk to you again soon in the future, brother.
All right, my man. And please do, because I think I only went over about 20% of what I even wrote.
We're going to get to it, man. All right. Well, till next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll be talking again tomorrow. We'll see you then.
God bless. Love you, Chris.